All right, fabulous. So thank you very, very much for making time to attend this session. This is the first session in the marketing track at this year's Dreamforce. You are in Lead Management 101, qualifying, scoring, and routing your leads for success. And so my name is Tad Travis. I work as a customer success manager in the Atlanta, Georgia area of the U.S. And I'm really glad I've got a chance to help kick off this session this year. I've been working in the marketing automation field for more than 10 years, and in that time I've really come to see, live, and implement and see how important lead management is to not only driving new business within your company, but of course reducing all that inefficiency that makes it so difficult to do business as you're trying to drive business in. Joining me during this session today, I have two fabulous speakers, people who have lived the lead management world themselves. First is Sylvia Goudat from Citrix Systems, and then after her will be Stuart Robertson from ShareBuilder 401k. So why should you be in this session today? This is a great session for you to be in if you're not yet using lead management in Salesforce and want to get some sort of sense of what you should know before you start to dive into the deep end of the pool. But this is also a real good session for you if you started using lead management but not really certain whether you're using it to its fullest capacities or want to see some of those really hard-won tricks that make using our application so much more effective. So takeaways. What should you know? What should you know from a business process point of view before you start lead management? Sylvia's presentation is going to be real key for that today. And then secondly, if you want those techniques you can take back to the office right away and put it into place right away, Stuart's presentation is going to be really fabulous for you. Of course, here's the Salesforce Safe Harbor statement. So I just want to set up the playing field a little bit before we really talk about some of the deep parts of lead management. When I started out in sales a real long time ago, longer than I want to remember. Lead management for me, when I had to build my lead pipeline, literally was going to the shelf in the sales office, pulling out copies of the yellow pages, and going through. Every time I had to fill my pipe, I just went to a different part of the yellow pages. Or I looked at industry publications. That was well back before we've had some of the great innovations we've seen. Whether it's the rise of database marketing, use of the internet, integrated technologies, social media, before we even had all those things. Lead management was particularly hard. But even with all these great technology innovations, Salesforce, when we talk with our customers, we see three very common problems that need to be addressed. And it doesn't matter what company size. First, insufficient lead generation. How do you get more leads in your lead pipeline so that you see the effective result at the end of the sales pipeline? It's a problem common to everybody, regardless of business side. Number two, poor alignment with sales. Common division between marketing and sales. Marketing wants to know what's happening to the leads I'm passing to sales. Sales wants to know, why aren't you giving me better leads? And you're giving me stuff that I can't work with. Another common problem. And third is measuring marketing ROI. Even with all the advances in technology, it's still sometimes very difficult if you don't have the systems in place to track every single dollar you spend on your outbound marketing, all of the different channels you work with, and it's sometimes even difficult to allocate your dollars to the leads that you bring in through your marketing efforts. So Salesforce's vision for solving these problems. We give you, with our rich set of functionality that comes when you set up Salesforce, we give you the capacity, the ability to solve all these things. Number one, generate new leads and immediately integrate them into your selling process. Whether you're working completely manually, you're collecting names at a trade show and you want to bring them into your pipeline, or you're collecting things, you're semi-automated through purchasing data lists, maybe you're fully automated already with web-to-lead capture. Salesforce gives you the ability, all your generation activities, bring them right into Salesforce. Number two, we optimize lead flow. We're going to talk a little bit more about what lead management process is. Optimize lead flow. Make sure that you've got standard processes in place so that everyone involved in the marketing, inside sales, everyone involved in who's touching your lead management process understands and knows what is happening within your company. And finally, we get through our rich dashboards and reporting functionality, things that you might already be using, we give you the ability to track and trend your performance over time. So that's how we solve those three common problems. Just a little bit more about them in the way of definitions. Now, right off the front, lead management is about a business process. It's, of course, for driving identifying prospects, driving new business, but also make sure that you think about lead management for cross-selling and upselling to your existing customers. Again, things that you can do within Salesforce right now, but things you should consider before you design your process. Lead management is integral, and it's directly tied to your entire customer life cycle. And it should be an integral part of your selling process, something you'll see from Sylvia's presentation. Use it to establish two-way communication between your company and prospects, and also make sure that lead management accelerates your actions with your qualified prospects. Nothing's worse than throwing good time and good money after bad leads. So, final slide that I want to use just to tee up everything. Lead management, in my way of thinking, is a really broad umbrella. Lead management is a process, broad umbrella, a lot of sub-processes to them. You're probably already doing some of these to a greater or lesser extent. Maybe the terminology doesn't match up exactly with what you're doing, but these are the things you really should consider before you get too deep into setting up your lead management process, or there are things you should think about if you want to employ some best practices. Number one, taking a longer look at your lead capture mechanisms. Two, defining your lead funnel, something you're going to see from Sylvia's presentation. Number two, your assignment. We give you a lot of flexibility within Salesforce. Do you want to assign leads to partners? You can do that. You want to assign leads to an inside sales group? We can do that. Do you want to throw everything into a queue and let the most qualified prospects go at your most qualified agents go after them? Absolutely, we allow you to do that. Something you'll see from Stuart's presentation, the concept of throwing things out there and letting the sharks churn up the water to go after the chum. Lead scoring is another important thing. This is another reflection of business process. It comes in, and as you progressively communicate with those prospects, update the score for them so you know the value to your organization. Everyone else in the company understands what the value is as well. And then just finally to wrap up, stages. This is the embodiment of your real lead management business process. Take a long look and give some consideration to that. Stuart's going to show some basic lead B2B processes and stages that they considered. But within Salesforce, we give you the flexibility to customize your lead management process in any way you need to. You want to create something that's region-specific. You want to create something that's business, product line specific. Absolutely, you've got that flexibility within that. Within our application as well. In fact, Sylvia will touch on that during her presentation. Then lastly, build effective dashboards, your key performance indicators, so that you're tracking your business all the way through. And of course, lead management also requires integrated data. So that is a real quick run through about the basics of lead management. You're going to hear a lot of these same terms coming from our speakers here in a few moments. So, lead off, very first speaker in this great topic, Sylvia Goudat, who is manager for business process in the worldwide operations group at Citrix Systems. Sylvia and I worked together. I had the pleasure of working with Citrix a year plus ago. They recently went live with an enormous global lead management process, extending over 1,400 people in their company. She's got some really hard-won lessons to bring to you for understanding what you should consider on the business process side before you go into lead management. So with that, Sylvia, please, it's yours.
So who in here would like to drive increased revenue for your company? This is a rhetorical question, but that's terrific. Lead management offers you the opportunity it offers you an opportunity to improve your revenue cycle. And today I'd like to share with you some of the practices that we implemented at Citrix Systems that can result in improved lead quality, velocity, and better alignment between marketing and sales organizations. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Citrix and our Salesforce implementation. Citrix is a global leader in application delivery infrastructure. 99% of global 500 companies rely on Citrix technology to run their business. We first implemented Salesforce in January of 2007 with the introduction of opportunity management. And more recently, in May of this year, we launched a global lead management solution. Like Tad mentioned, our user base is over 1,400 at the moment. When we started the lead management project, we looked to the marketing vision to help drive the objectives for the project. Our two key objectives were to improve upon the quality of lead flow and increase the visibility of marketing effectiveness. And to accomplish these objectives, we introduced a set of business practices as well as a global process framework. What I'll be doing today is actually just pointing out some key considerations as well as best practices for 5 of the key stages in a lead management process, which are the creation stage, qualification, assignment, distribution, and the ongoing measurement. So where should you start if you're looking to either mature your existing lead management process or introduce a new one? You should start by understanding your current state and understanding the different stages in your revenue cycle or lead funnel. The key objective is to sit down with sales and marketing organizations and agree upon a common definition of what quality of a lead is and what it means to your organization. And then you should take that definition of lead quality and use it to help drive your lead management practices. It becomes important for that to help you track progress of a potential opportunity at each stage of your funnel, which will add predictability to your revenue cycle. At Citrix, our lead management process starts at the point that we're able to track a response to a marketing interaction or campaign, and it ends with a handoff to opportunity management, which is the creation of the opportunity itself. Now, in addition to having a shared definition of lead quality, it is important that you also define all the elements that are supporting your process. It is important that you speak a common language so that you can align across the organization along a common set of objectives. Now, in terms of the design of the framework itself, it is important to actually take a top-down view and perhaps initially just consider generic stages that you want to go ahead and analyze. There are some key questions that you need to be able to answer. Again, going back to the definition of lead quality, and some of those questions include, for instance, what is the minimum required information that you want to capture to create the initial lead? And then what is the criteria that you will enforce to move so that when the lead moves from one stage of the process to the next, you're really enforcing a consistent set of business rules. Another important aspect is to define clearly the entry points into your process. Again, this is important for consistency of the business rules and to ensure that there is data integrity and reporting that is consistent across the process. At Citrix, once we actually got buy-in for this top-down framework, we started actually mapping activities that were that needed to enable us, getting to the level of quality that it was required for the enabling of the capabilities within the framework. And it was at the activity level that we actually allow flexibility in the process. So for instance, we have a common global framework, but because we do have geographic differences in the way that the different regions are structured, we allow for rules at the geographic level. So for instance, we don't have a formal qualification team in place for all of our regions. So from a distribution perspective, we may decide to route a lead directly to a partner instead of going to a qualification rep first. Now I'd like to drill down into the first stage, which is the creation stage. In this stage, you're actually capturing a response to a marketing campaign or a program, and you need to make a determination of whether to create a lead or not. At Citrix, we actually shifted our focus from volume to quality as part of the lead management initiative. With our legacy solution, every interaction with a prospect was actually created as a lead in the system. And with the new solution, we're actually leveraging a score that looks at frequency, recency, and type of interaction to determine whether we should create a lead or not. A best practice in this stage is actually to enforce data quality, which includes deduplication. And so what we do at Citrix is we actually, once we have established that we want to create a lead, we look to our existing database and we match it against account contact records, And then if we find a match, we then run a match against our existing lead base. And we do not create a new lead if we already have one that exists. We simply associate that interaction to the existing lead. And this gives us the visibility of all the marketing touch points and the information, we continue to expand on the intelligence that we have on that prospect. Now, let's have a closer look at the qualification stage. In the qualification stage, you want to prioritize lead according to readiness to be acted on, based on the opportunity that it represents. So here, a best practice is actually to have a live touch point with your prospect and to confirm biodemographic information, as well as to go through budget, authority, need and time frame type questions. At Citrix, we rely on the use of call scripts to guide the conversation with the customer and to also ensure that we do not, if we already have information that was captured prior, that we don't ask the same questions. Our scripts are actually, there's a number of questions that can be campaign specific, again, for consistency of positioning, to ensure that the dialogue that is taking place is enforcing the program that was actually the one that generated that lead, the message of the program. The scripts actually also have a weighing criteria so that there is a dynamic score that gets calculated. And we do not send a lead that doesn't meet a particular threshold over to sales. So we make sure that the leads, again, going back to our definition of quality, are sales ready. Now, taking a closer look at routing or assignment. Here, what is key is, once you have a sales-ready lead, is to get it in the hands of the sales rep or the partner that will be acting on that. And from an assignment perspective, our external assignment model, we consider aspects like existing relationship with the customer, product certification, geographic proximity, and we come up with a best fit partner to actually handle the lead. This is from an external lead assignment perspective. One improvement that we introduced in this stage was also to make available the content of the marketing program and the offer that was actually a part of the campaign that generated the lead, and we make that available to sales as well as to our channel. So in terms of a best practice for this particular stage in the process, you want to make sure that you're tracking and following up on the disposition of your leads. So once the leads go over to sales, you don't want to just simply throw them over the wall. You want to actually make sure that they're being managed. And if they're not being managed, have a mechanism in place to establish whether they need to actually be reassigned to another person or another partner, or remarketed to. Now, the final stage in the lead management process is conversion stage. And at this stage in the process, you should actually have confirmed quality, and there should be a sense of likelihood of closure, even if it's fairly low. And at Citrix, this actually also represents a handoff to our field sales organization. Prior to this point, the attention is really with the channel engaging with our internal sales teams. So here again, we want to make sure that as a lead gets converted into an opportunity, that we're preserving key information in the form of notes. And another key aspect here is the tracking of the sourcing of that particular lead, so that we can go ahead and do closed loop reporting from a marketing contribution perspective and a marketing influence perspective. And last but not least, this is not an actual stage, but this is measurement and refinement is actually something that should happen throughout. And in order for you to be able to achieve excellence in lead management and excellence in process, you need to look at your metrics on an ongoing basis. You need to, again, going back to the definitions that you implemented earlier in the process, which should be not only business-centric, but also process-centric definitions. It's important to look at trend analysis and to monitor the operation as well as the health of your process. Some of the things, for instance, that we put together as part of lead management for our organization is we have dashboards that actually monitor pipeline creation as well as program effectiveness, looking at conversion rates from one stage of the process to the next. And if you look at trend analysis, you can actually start identifying potential red flags that will serve as an input for further refinement of your models that you're using for either assignment or scoring. And this is so that your process stays current with current market conditions. We have been live 6 months at Citrix, and since Go Live, we started actually taking a closer look at the health checks for our process, and we're actually very happy to see some of our initial results. We've been able to triple conversion rates from lead to opportunity. And another really nice win for us is the fact that now it takes us 1/4 the time that it used to take to actually get a new lead into the hands of a partner. So key takeaways, again, here, make sure that you align sales and marketing organizations along the definition of lead quality, that you use the definition of lead quality to drive your practices around lead management, and to start simple, measure, and refine. So in closing, having a well-designed lead management process based on best practices can really help improve upon lead quality, velocity, and the alignment between sales and marketing organizations. The one thought that I'd like to leave you with is to start simple, measure, and refine. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you very much. That was fabulous information. I hope there are a lot of questions you want to bring up with her. We're definitely going to have some time at the end of this to ask a lot of questions coming up. And absolutely, we're available after this presentation to answer questions if need be. So, our next presenter, Stuart Robertson, head of ShareBuilder 401k Advisors. Now, a lot of businesses have the time and luxury to have a long sales cycle. A lot of companies have the luxury of taking a long look, provide good information, ask the customer what they want to do, come back to them in a few days. So how things come along with that thing we talked about a few days ago. At Stuart's company, literally, time is money. The time that they spend not following up, the time that they spend not making sure that prospect becomes a paying customer with them, they can measure the amount of money that they're losing. And it's a pretty powerful message that he's going to deliver today. Stuart, let's go through some of the basics of lead management technique at your company.
Thank you very much. Everyone here okay? Am I loud enough? No? 1 second. Will help me out here. How about now? Is that better? All right. Thanks. How many folks have heard of ING Direct? All right. Pretty good. How about ShareBuilder? ShareBuilder 401k. We're the small group. We're the startup group within ING Direct. We're about 4 years old. But I want to take you through some things that I can talk about how to make the most of the leads that come in so that all your marketing dollars, all your sales energies are most effective. And that's really the key to a lot of our success. Before I jump into that, I want to kind of give you a little background on what we're trying to do. Our whole goal in life is to help small businesses save and make 401ks simple. In the small business space, especially those with less than 50 employees, about 90% of them actually don't have a 401k, and 80% don't have any sort of retirement plan. So as much of this news you hear about 401ks, having a bad rap in the market, these guys don't even have a retirement plan to fall back on. So we're trying to enable that group of companies to have a 401k plan. We're pretty revolutionary that we're online and pay for free. We're about 40% the cost or less of a traditional 401k plan because we've taken out a lot of costs to the online processes. And our participant fees are actually better than a lot of what Fortune 500 companies pay. So it's a pretty powerful platform. So I think we all share these. I think everyone wants more sales with less cost. we weren't sure if we could do what we set out to do. And as I go through some of the things, you'll get an idea of what we did to really dramatically improve our sales conversions. And quality experience is something we want everyone to walk away with. We want people talking about us after they signed up with our program. So we want that interaction with our 401k consultants to be fantastic. We want the online setup process to be fantastic, and that they have a great experience kicking off the program with their employees. So we had some really good success, which really made the business run and become a great subsidiary of ING Direct. Basically, we're helping people be more responsive, focused, and competitive. And by that, hopefully all our 401k consultants are considered supermen, and many folks have really shined over the last couple of years. This took about 2 years of fine-tuning to really get all these things in here. And a lot of what I'm talking about today is a lot of it, but there's also some marketing automation we put in place, et cetera, that helped feed to these results. So the 3 things I'm going to go through is kind of reiterate some things Sylvia said about defining lead stages, the need for speed in getting those leads quickly to your sales team, and ensure that they are getting to them quickly. And I talk about the lead marketplace, which is how we route leads, how people compete for leads. We're a 100% inbound marketing lead model to our team, which may be unique for some folks out there. We do tests and outbound calling every now and then, but we have so much more success in being able to drive leads into our team and convert them, and we're able to do that in volume, that we're able to let them live in that world so that they got a good life. We use 2 app exchanges. ManaCore technology is key to do some of our lead scoring, which I'll talk about. They also do some of our marketing automation work. And we also use RingLead, which does the dedupe automatically so that we don't have multiple people calling the same lead or different people within the same company. Some things to note. So how many folks feel like they have a pretty good lead definition stages, et cetera, already in their companies? So a fair amount of folks have a good definition. The key thing, I think, is, I just reiterate some things Sylvia said, is just making sure that everyone has the same definition. I mean, how many people have salespeople defining their lead stages differently than what the company has wanted to define it? Common problem. We definitely have had it. We go back and reinforce it every quarter. we go back through, we get our CRM person going back through people, we reinforce it in the management meetings, et cetera, so that everyone is being consistent, which helps with forecasting and letting us know what's going on and who's being productive and not, and if there's something else, if someone's falling off in productivity, what is it? So these are just common lead stages. A lot of people move to opportunity, come to the qualified area, and kick them over to sales. We've tried telequalifiers. We find in the small business marketplace that we need our best people in the initial phone call, initial call out, because when we get hold of them, we need to get our positioning across, get to what the owner is interested in doing with their company. To move that forward, we find the telequalifier, the small business guy, just won't show up for the meeting that he set with us. So we actually, if you're an enterprise using telequalifiers and that sort of thing, you can still apply a lot of these things, but just kind of know what's going to be successful for you. And also just being simple, and fitting it around, the most common purchase process that's going through for the salesperson, not trying to bring in some of the one-offs that can kind of throw off having too many lead stages. Keep it simple so that everyone knows what stage everybody's in. So the need for speed. Do many folks use Web to Lead already out there? Good. I mean, it's a great technology. You can either leverage it through Salesforce using some of their web applications, or you can put the code into your web landing pages. We do a lot of search marketing, a lot of landing pages. We have those things pop right back into Salesforce. It's real time. It's deduping with the RingLead service, so that it's if it's someone from the same company, it's going to the same rep that has that company. And you can see here that the exact information that's in that lead form is coming straight into the lead in Salesforce, and your salesperson can see that real time. So, which really feeds into a couple key things about ensuring your sales team or your telequalifiers, whatever you're using, is calling these leads extremely fast. There's been a lot of research out there. If you wait 5 days, you might as well be cold calling. They've kind of forgotten about you. You're just one of the other vendors they're researching out there. So there's also some good data that every hour you wait, your ability to contact them on that first call starts dropping. dramatically. So we have incentives for people to call people in the first hour, in the first 5 hours, in the first 24 hours, and those things kind of drive a lot of our results. So we use lead scoring to prioritize leads for the sales team. They get, depending on what's going on, if there's an email with one of our partners like Costco, it's one of our major channels, we have an exclusive contract to work with Costco members. And when we drop an email to the Costco base, we tend to get a lot of leads all at once, and that can cause a problem. So we need to prioritize, what leads to call first based on a lot of different things. Is it the owner? What size plan are they looking at? But other key things are things like, did they visit more than one page on the site? Did they just download a quote? Did they get a demo? Did they do other things on the site? How engaged were they during their time on the web with us? And that'll help jack up the score. If they're coming back to our site multiple times, that will bring their score back up. So we're looking at a lot of dynamic variables of how engaged this lead is. They may even say that they're not looking to buy for a year, but if their behavior on the site is different, what people say and what they do are often different, that's allowing our salesperson to re-engage with that lead and get involved with them. So the other thing is that you have all this great information. You have to make it easy for your sales team to access, to get at it. So we have a lot of custom lists, new action lists that they look at every day of what prospects have come back to the site. We have some other notifiers that help them realize who's on the site, so they can call those folks and get them moving along the decision process. And of course, custom dashboards that they can see what's going on, they can see how they're doing against their peers, and so forth to make them as effective as possible. So the next piece I'm going to talk about is maybe a little advanced, but it all comes down to how you route your leads. And for us, we wanted to incent the right behavior within the organization, but we also wanted to ensure the things that we knew that helped drive conversion was being done across the sales team. And we call it the lead marketplace. And what the sales team is doing is they're really competing on a weekly basis for their allocations of next week's leads. So the best rep might get 18% of next week's leads, and the worst rep might get 4% of next week's leads. And that's going to affect how they're going to do. But it's based on multiple things. Some folks have the capacity or just able to make more dials. They should be able to do that. Some people have better close rates. That should tie into it. Some people are doing the key things that we require around responsiveness, not letting leads sit too long out there. We actually will shut people off if they fall behind on leads or activities. And it's actually not something that is a bad thing. It actually just lets them catch up and give a good experience to every lead that comes into us. So it's not looked as a bad thing, though some people might think so on the team. I never look down on it. It's like, hey, get caught up. Get those people involved with us and see where they are with their decision. So the other good thing is it provides a fair playing field so everyone can see what's going on across the organization, what their team members are doing. So if, one person's having a big activity day, the next guy might be, incented to kind of keep up with that person so that they get their fair share of leads next week. They can see the dashboards in real time. They can see what's going on. And I talked about you do need some sticks, or I'm not going to call them sticks, but you need some cutoffs. You got to make sure that these leads are being acted upon. And if they're not, you just need to let people get cut off so they can catch up with what they're doing, and then you turn them right back on to the leads when they get caught up. So that's kind of how it works. But you can use lead routing in multiple ways. So obviously, this is how we're doing. We're going to try to make it competitive. When I worked in a company at enterprise sales, we actually had issues with some people not following up on the marketing leads. You cut them off and you give them to the people who do follow up on them. Those are some of the things you can do with Salesforce. So here, with lead routing to your team, you can actually pull into this area on salesforce.com. Under app setup, you can see the assignment rules. You can weight the leads there. That's what we do. We weight the leads based on some of the criteria I was talking about, and we adjust that weekly. But you can have it set to an individual. You can have it sent to multiple individuals. You can kind of do this whatever way you want. This is the way we're leveraging it across our inside sales team. You can see here some of the rules, how you can do it. We basically create a 1 to 100 ranking. Each lead is randomly assigned to a number. So if someone's got 18% weighting, I'm just making up a number here, they get 18 random numbers, and every time that pops through with a lead coming in, they get assigned that, whereas someone else might only get 4. The rep receives a lead each time specific lead number is generated. I just kind of mentioned we weight more to leads for those who are performing. Obviously, you got to dedupe those leads, otherwise you get a lot of complaints from your sales team about calling on the same lead and who actually got that sale, because I called them, I talked to them, and this other person called them and talked to them, and so who actually owns that sale. So you got to have a good deduping process, and that's one reason we went out and found App Exchange partner. We create rules to take out bogus leads because we do a lot of testing in our environment. So we have specific things we use for our QA so that doesn't route into the sales team. We also have had some bogus affiliates throwing leads to us, and we just block them out as well. So that makes sure it's a clean lead flow into the sales team. We also have alternative channels which sell our products, and we make sure those are routed to those folks as outside of us, outside of our internal team. And we also have overflow situations. I mentioned that sometimes we drive a high volume of leads in a short period of time, and it's just greater than the bandwidth of the inside sales team. But we have to ensure all these get called in a timely manner, or we lose the opportunity. So we have an overflow team of sales team leads, anyone who's licensed. We basically have about 5 other folks we can turn on in a snap, and they can call down those leads, and we can transfer them back to the normal sales team afterwards. After that rush is over with. So see, these are a couple of the dashboards we use. I tried to cut and paste a few in here, so you can kind of see what the sales team is seeing. We have a different plan sizes that people are responsible for and compete for. So self-employed plans versus larger plans. What kind of activity are they doing? Do they have any overdue tasks? Are things funding as they're supposed to? So you sell a plan, is it installing and funding as expected? All the things that affect their commissions and so forth are all going to fall into different dashboards that we show. So just to kind of reiterate some of the things that we were able to accomplish, we more than doubled the sales per rep over a 2-year period. We actually shortened the average time to a sale by 24%, which was pretty dramatic for the team. And a lot is due to the speed that we're getting back to folks with. And then we improved the overall close rate by 19% during that 2-year period. So, the tools that we got through Salesforce and some of the App Exchange partners really, really helped the team become productive. So I'll leave you with a few final thoughts. Imagine it and learn it and use it. We did it with a pretty small team of folks, so I think a lot of folks have greater resources than us. Obviously, you dedicate at least 50% of someone's time to do your CRM, if not 100%. It's that important. We actually purposely put the marketer in charge of defining all this stuff so that it was kind of an outside view, if you will, versus some of the sales team's different views on how things should be defined, but kind of getting that agreement on what it should be. Do it fast. I always say be remarkable, not perfect. There's always times to refine. You should be refining the things you're doing to get better over time. I think everyone's pretty good at doing that. Define your lead stages. Determine lead scoring parameters to rank your leads. Create those easy ways for your team to leverage both the new leads as well as those coming back that you've have as inactive leads to re-engage with them through some of the new action call lists and dashboards. Get your automatic lead assignment rules up and wait as you feel fit. Measure, listen, and adjust. And are many folks here using the ideas tab on salesforce.com? A couple of people? This actually can be one of your key ways of really improving your process. We've used it very effectively with our team. So the ideas thing, for those who aren't that familiar with it, you can throw out new ideas in there and just have your team comment on it. So we talked to them about, what would make you more effective as a salesperson? How do you want your lead stages defined correctly? What would, all those sort of questions, and they're throwing in ideas, and we take those ideas and we put them into the processes to make their lives better. It's free. It's part of the program, I believe, to use among your employees. So I definitely would leverage that if you think about how to listen to your sales team, especially those of you with really large organizations. Like I said, use App Exchange partners that can help feed you scoring data or any other vital information that you may not be getting through Salesforce, and keep that feedback loop open. I think that's all I got.
Yeah. Great. Stuart, thank you very much. It's really fabulous techniques presented there. So before we get to questions, Salesforce is an organization that thrives on feedback, not the Jimi Hendrix type. The feedback we need to hear back from you. Please give feedback about the quality of this session, about the quality of the information we provided to you, and of course, every session you attend. For your feedback, there is a payback opportunity to win the iPod, of course. And we'd like you to stop by the attendee survey section, which is in both Moscone North and Moscone South. So impossible to miss if you're on the other side of the building. So, yes, we've definitely got time available for questions. We've got a microphone here in the middle. If you're towards the back of the room, great, queue up. We'll be glad to take your questions. I've also got a floating microphone. Well, it doesn't levitate. I'll be glad to hand it to you so we can answer questions. Now, while we're setting up for this, I'm going to throw a couple questions to my folks before we get too deep into this. So, Stuart, actually, question, Sylvia, for you. Common definitions. You had definitions for interactions, contacts, opportunities, etc. What types of people did you go to in order to drive to those common definitions? Because you had handoffs between marketing and sales. What groups did you go to in a general sense to get those answers?
Yeah, so when we established the project, we actually established a team that included a team of experts with representation across sales and marketing. And those were the folks that we actually went to. But we also extended out to a virtual team for confirmation of any recommendations that came out of the expert team. So it was a network of folks that had the experience as well as the understanding of our business to really make those recommendations.
And so you required executive sign-off as well as input from other individuals within the organization to sign off. So that's a really important point. Global process, there's no way they could have gotten to the very first beginnings of actually designing them in Salesforce if they didn't have acceptance of terms and terminology, so it was worth taking time on that. Again, please queue up here at the microphone at the middle, and I'll come down with the microphone. Stuart, real quick question for you. The dashboard you created, do you provide dashboards to your representatives as well as to executives? Are they seeing the common information just aggregated at a different level? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the sales team can always see how they are doing in terms of their group that they're in, and actually across all the sales team if they want to do that. So yeah, it's very important to see how they're stacking up against the folks on the team, so they know where they can improve their allocation for next week.
Yes,
so
motivator.
that's very important. And of course, I always want to see how folks are doing and look at it by different groups. So.
All right. Fabulous. So first question here in the middle of the floor, and then I'll take someone up here in the front, too.
This working? Yeah, okay. I have a question actually for both of you. When you make a marketing campaign and you have limited information coming in, let's say you have a name, an email, and maybe a company name. So between there and starting to call everybody, what's the process to further pre-qualify those leads? And at the other end, there's actually another interesting question where you mentioned at the end about how you define your scoring and how you use partners for help in the scoring data. That's a little bit mysterious to me as well as how you establish that scoring process and how to get going with that.
Okay. I'll start and Sylvia can add on how they do it. So our lead forms all have, I think, 6 or 7 key pieces of information they have to put in. And one thing is title. And so that title often determines whether they're a decision maker or not. That actually goes in the scoring as well. And we also make them verify that they are a decision maker for a 401k plan with a little check mark. So we also will screen out channels. So like we do a lot of online marketing, keyword marketing, but we also do partner marketing with deals that we have. And if they don't hit our threshold of 85% qualification rate, which our sales team will determine over 69 days, so they'll tell you what they don't like. And we capture all that data. We will screen them out of our ongoing marketing programs. So we kind of use double folds, that we're hoping that the owners are giving accurate information, and then at the same time, if the channel isn't performing at a level that's sufficient for the sales team, that we'll have to cut them out or find a new way to market with that partner that gets to owners or a decision maker. Around lead scoring, the data that we're getting from Manicore is really giving us a lot of the web information. So it's telling us what pages they're on our site, how frequently they're visiting our site, and that's feeding into our own lead scoring engine that we built. They actually have one out of the box. I think other providers have them out of the box as well. And then we use just the traditional things as well that we're just capturing straight from the lead form, as well as anything that the salesperson adds on that we think is valuable. But, you know, actions have higher scores. The quote's more valuable than the demo. Frequency is very important in that. How many times they've come to the site, how many pages, how long they've been on the site. All those things are feeding into the value of that lead. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, so very similar at Citrix, I think, in terms of, we do purchase lists, and we do have, so in terms of having sufficient information to qualify, a lot of that, you know, from a purchase list perspective is already in place when we do CIO roundtables, for example. But our forms, we use progressive profiling, so that we ask a set of questions, different set of questions with each visit, so that we continue to enhance upon the quality of the information. And it isn't until we have last name, company name, a phone, and an email address that, you know, we are ready to actually pass it on as a lead to the next step in the process. So that's, now regarding the scoring, our scoring model, I mean, it's also, you know, we highly customized because our business is fairly complex. We have a 2-tier distribution channel. So we do internal assignment, which is really based on the patch of dirt. So it's internal sales reps, and we also do name account from an internal assignment perspective. And then from a channel perspective, which is the second assignment, external, we use, again, we first look at the existing relationship that a partner has with a customer, because we don't have a captive partner-customer relationship. So we have resellers and fulfillers, advisors, and so we create different incentives for different types of partners. So we first try to respect the existing relationship, and then from there, the readiness for them to support a sales of a particular product of interest. And so all of that goes into really identifying the best fit partner. But if we cannot identify a best fit partner with that criteria, we actually go into a round robin, which is similar to what Stuart explained.
All right, sure. Next question. In the interest of time, we only got about 12 minutes left. Please just ask just one question, and we'll be glad to answer questions afterwards. Please.
Hi, folks. Amity Hungerford with FICO, formerly Fair Isaac Corporation. Sylvia, I had a question for you. You mentioned that there's a part in your lead management process where if an existing contact or a lead has been interacting with your company, there is an append of information. Can you explain how you handle that and what type of notification might go out to the field or telemarketing reps, and also how you create metrics to track that versus, say, net new versus influencing existing?
Okay. So we actually, here again, there was the need for us to do a bit of customization. So we created a new object which we call interactions. And it is a related list that exists against the lead object. So we basically, the visibility is there. The matching happens if we use criteria from a contact perspective. So we first determine whether the account and the contact exist in our database. Because we have a concept that of suspect accounts, we try to delay the creation of a master data until later in the process. So we go through a process of identifying, is this customer already in our database? And if so, do we have an existing lead? But we look to basic contact information to identify a match. We first start with contact information and then company information. We actually leverage Trillium as the engine to actually help with our matching. We use, there's a physical address information that is required for us to create an account. So we use a lot of that logic to say, is there an existing record? And if so, then we look for existing leads for that same, using similar criteria. Again, same company, same contact, looking at some things like product of interest. Once we determine that there is no, or there is an existing lead, then at that point we create an association. Every interaction is associated also with the marketing program. So when we first capture interaction, it has a marketing program, and then it is the cumulative set of interactions that actually causes the threshold to be exceeded and the creation of the lead. The lead itself has one marketing program, but we actually look to the marketing program of each of the interactions that preceded the lead in order to establish influence. And we use a weighting criteria to do that. So we have influence from an interaction to lead, and then we have influence from a lead to opportunity, because there's many to many, if you will, relationship. Okay. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Thanks. Sure. Next question, please.
I was just wondering, do you use internal Salesforce functionality?
Can you speak in the microphone, please?
I was just wondering if you use internal Salesforce functionality to write the score back to Salesforce, or how are you actually writing that score using all that criteria?
Are you asking me? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so we automatically have it generate in Salesforce the score based on the criteria we built. And if Colby's in here, I'm not sure if he is or not, he can actually tell you more details afterwards. But yeah, we actually have it right into directly into Salesforce, and it actually populates as well on the Salesforce lead screen of what that score was when they pop it open. When they see their lead list, they can see the score, et cetera, and prioritize based on that.
But is it using any kind of internal built standard
Yeah, we custom built stuff within Salesforce.
You custom built
yeah,
it?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I understand you use metrics to manage your lead process, but part of often the hardest time is getting your reps to actually start following up on lead management. It's a new process. Did you guys incent your reps at all through programs to get them to buy into the lead management process? That's often kind of a hard part to get them just off the ground.
So the first, for us, we actually, the qualification reps are not, they don't work on commission. And so they really are managed based on their, the pipeline that they have of leads to qualify. We implemented queues, and so they're organized in also geographic areas of responsibility. And we track the aging of leads. So if the leads has gone unmanaged for an X number of days, again from a qualification perspective, there's reports, and we really try to stay on top of that from an operational perspective.
I got the beat them on the head approach. I was just trying to figure out if there was actually a way to get them to incent them positively, as opposed, because we can manage the hell out of them. I'm just trying to see if there's a way also to positively incent them, right?
Yeah, well, just on our side, we tried to make it more carrots than sticks.
Yeah.
And that was saying, like, you can see, and before it was more arbitrary of how the leads were assigned, and it was the feeling of the sales director, who got what each week, versus we're like, people complained about the visibility. They complained about they're not following up as much as I did. They're not calling as fast as I did. And so by saying, okay, if you call more, if you are faster to your leads, if you do have a higher close rate, you get a bigger share. So that was seen very positively, because then it also helps self-police. If they thought someone was cheating, which is not allowed, but if they thought someone was, they'd bring it right up the chain, because they don't want to get screwed out of leads. So it actually worked really well. I mean, there's some things they don't always love calling someone in the first hour, but they know if they don't, they may drop down on the lead distribution list. So,
thank you.
Yeah. All right, so last two questions.
Okay. My question is for Tad. Is Salesforce working on anything to create a duplicate search engine within it, not just by finding duplicates, but like they said, they use alternate companies that help them find if leads are currently existing or not? Is Salesforce working on something that you can create an assignment rule that'll do that for you?
Yes, the short answer is lead deduplication is a topic and a subject completely entirely on its own. There are sessions for data quality and data management. Whether Salesforce is going to talk about anything that's on the roadmap, maybe it'll be brought up at that session. If you've got some particular requirements, I've worked with customers before. I'd be glad to talk that over with you in a few moments.
All right. And then I have a quick question for him, if we can or not, for Stuart.
Yeah, please.
Quick question. You said that your sales process increased by 24%, like the closing,
Time.
from what I understood, the closing
Yeah.
time exactly, did you just base that strictly on lead age and when it got converted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And I too have two very quick questions. The first is, can you confirm that this material will be at the portal, that we can download this PowerPoint if we wish to review it?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Second, and then for Sylvia, in your slide, you mentioned there was a market to lead vendor. Do they, what did they do in your process for you?
This is the tool that we use for lead capture, the capture of responses. So the registration forms, the hosting of some of our landing sites is through market to lead. So for instance, one of the things that we do is we offer downloads, free evaluations of our software. So when someone comes to the site and actually downloads or activates that product, that initial interaction is captured on a market to lead form. There is integration. Market to lead is an App Exchange partner, so there's native integration with Salesforce. And so they're the entry point, one of our 3 entry points into the process.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Those were really fabulous questions. So just last thing for you, we've got additional sessions coming up in marketing tracks and in data quality that you'd definitely be interested in. I highly recommend one coming up at 4:45 today, which is multi-channel campaigns. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
I totally forgot to get that.